Have you ever wondered what the three levers on a Dino 246 do and how they're supposed to operate? Have you ever had to maintain them and know what lubricants to use, how to adjust them? Well, come along today. We're going to experience lubricating those as well as two other items, the key ignition and the spline for the steering shaft. Before I put the new carpet in the Dino, I wanted to use lubrication in those areas that might drip down. It'd be prudent to do that now before the carpet's in rather than afterwards and have to clean it up off the carpet. There are 5 areas I want to go over on the interior. Number 1 is the splined shaft here that extends from the steering through the firewall down to the rack. I have used white lithium grease, had to use 2 hands, but by the magic of TV, it's already done. I shove the pipette back up, give it just a slight squirt, and then rotate it 90 degrees around, give it another slight squirt, and 2 more just like that. And that gets that in. Second area where you also are going to use white lithium grease is the ignition key. White lithium grease is also used on the Neiman ignition key. You can see I just squirted a little bit of white there. You want to be very careful in this area. Do not use anything liquid because the mechanical Neiman key has a splined connection to the Bosch electrical connection on the back side, and it is not watertight. That is, if you use something like WD-40, it'll do fine in the key cylinders, but it will also flow into the electrics and possibly cause a fire or polarize and collect dust, which then could start a fire. Key ignition. And now let's go to our final 3 areas, the levers on the dash of the Dino. There are 3 console levers on the dash of a Dino, 2 ventilation controls, and 1 hot water heater control. The ventilation controls control the 4 of the 5 vents in the Dino. The center dash vent is controlled only by the air conditioning. In the lower position, only the kick panel vent is open. When the middle position is selected, both the top vent and the kick panel are open, and the most important one for us is 0, which is 0% airflow or closed. This will close the vent from all ventilation coming into the cabin from the left side. Now these are actuated by straight rods running in a sheath, so you have to clamp both the sheath and the end of the cable to the articulated slider. Likewise, the passenger side has its own independent vent to direct the air to the footwell. Both the footwell and the rightmost vent on the dash, or shut it off altogether. This is going to be important for us, especially the shutting off of it. Dino rides very close to the ground, and the asphalt's probably 120. This is why our air conditioning project's even going to be more important, but we should not consider any of the ventilation air to be cool air. It's most likely going to be warm, hot air coming in. So that's why I say having them completely closed off is going to be. And now here we have the middle, the hot water heater slider. It is also a stationary sheath with a sliding rod in the middle of it, pushing out on a hot water valve. Now, as you saw during the complete coolant restoration, that hot water valve was rusted on the backside and hadn't moved in years. We've got a brand new one in there, and the reason this is free to move is it's not connected. So let's go up and look at how the connections to the ventilation and the hot water heater terminate and how to align them correctly. When you slide the left lever, it comes up here in the forward compartment just by the fuse box and pushes this rod out from the sheath to this position. Now, so underneath the pivot arm inside the air duct tube is a flapper valve that can direct air to 1 or 2 of the outputs or shut it off altogether. Now it's a dark on dark surface, and there's 3 positions. I used orange paint to denote the closed position. So as we can see, only that dot there's a middle one. And as we go back to the middle slide it to the middle position. We see the vent is in the middle position. Let's move now to the closed position and see that our orange dot has been acquired. When we've aligned that by using a 7mm wrench on this cap screw here for the rod to go through and clamp down on it. Push the rod through at the right distance, tighten it down, and you can see we're good to go. And likewise for the passenger side, I've applied a orange dot at the close point on our lever. There we are at the down position for that. Can I say it with two hands? Now put it in the middle position, nice to 10th there. That was a nice crisp one. We are in center, and now we're gonna go for that orange dot and close the system off completely. This one is really smoothly. There we go. Yes, I had to pull all these cables out and use steel wool to clean them off. They were completely gunked up with old wax and dirt, and that's why they were frozen up. Now you can see they move really well. I do have to attach the hot water heater down here, but I had to repair the cable first. You can see I pulled it out. This goes to the hot water heater, and this 2 inches or so was completely broken open and splayed, making it difficult to clamp to there. I used shrink tubing to gather it all together and restore it, and rather than putting this end into the passenger area with that difficult clamp, I'm going to use it up here. Now, it's rather crude the way it goes through, but there are 2 holes. I'm sorry, the bottom hole. Okay, so I inserted in. Let's get it back in place. All right. Feed it into the cockpit and go inside. The heater valve gave me a little bit of trouble. The old cable had split here, and it was actually shortened all bad. It was very, very tight fit from the heater valve to the articulating arm in the cabin. And what had happened when the heater froze, you could see the pressure between the sheath and the cable splayed it out and even ruined it. I tried packing it in. I was able to clamp it down, but boy, I could not get the length of this hard. So long story short, I went to REI in the bicycle, and the bicycle guys always have the best cable. So I found some very good cable by Jaguar CEX. This is about $1.50 a foot, and I was able to go to Lowe's and find an 18 gauge solid galvanized wire that fits in here really well. The one problem is it's not very thick. It needs to be thick to fit in the clamp for the wire, so I'm using about 2 inches of this vinyl, stuck it on here just to give you an example, and that brings it up to the thickness. Cut it, slip it on, and now you've got the thickness for the clamping at the end. I've already installed it through the magic of television. It's already installed in there, clamped down, and ready to go. Let's try the heater. That has nice good tension for the heater and returns back to cold. Nice firm slide. So up in the front, the hot water heater valve is new, and you can see that the alignment rivet in the vertical slot there. It's a little bit of white lithium grease I stuffed down there, and the pivot, let's see, we have it on the cold position, pushing it all the way back, and the cable is clamped with our sheath and working fine. Slide that up to the hot water position. Come back here and see it's pulling the valve off of its seat, and that rivet for the slider is at the top. So you saw both the cold and the hot are properly aligned. And this is actually an 8mm screw at the cable end and a cheese head slot screw for the cable cinch. So that's how to change the cables and tighten and adjust them. So that's what the cables do. How to adjust them and how to lubricate them in a Dino 246 GTS.